Good evening. Tonight, I want to ask you a question. Not one that needs an answer immediately, not one that you have to solve before the morning comes. Just one that you can sit with. Why do you miss them? Maybe it's someone you loved. Maybe it's someone who loved you. Maybe it was never official. Maybe they never even knew how deeply you cared. Yet somehow, months later, years later, sometimes even decades later, they still find a way to visit your mind. Not through photographs, not through messages, but through ordinary moments. A certain song, a familiar street, the smell of rain, a restaurant you forgot existed, and for a brief second, they're there again. Why? Why does the mind refuse to let certain people disappear? Tonight, I don't think the answer is as simple as saying, because you love them. Love explains part of it, but I don't think it explains everything. Because sometimes we stop loving someone long before we stop missing them. One of the strangest things about being human is that our memories don't preserve reality. They preserve meaning. Think about it. If memories were simply recordings, you remember every Tuesday, every random conversation, every meal, every ordinary afternoon, but you don't. Your mind quietly deletes almost everything. It keeps only what changed you. The people who altered the direction of your life, whether they stayed or left, become permanent residents in your memory. Not because they were perfect, but because they became part of who you are. Maybe that's why missing someone feels so confusing. You're not always searching for them. Sometimes you're searching for the version of yourself that only existed when they were around. The person you became when they smiled at you. The confidence you carried. The hope you had. The dreams you shared. Sometimes you miss who you were more than who they were. Have you ever noticed that we rarely miss people exactly as they were? Instead, we miss edited versions of them. Our minds become filmmakers, removing the arguments, softening the disappointments, cropping out the moments that hurt, leaving behind a highlight reel. Memory can be incredibly kind or incredibly cruel because it doesn't show us the whole story. Only parts of our emotions decided to replay. An emotion is a terrible historian. It remembers how something felt more than what actually happened. Maybe that's why someone who made us cry can still become someone we wish would come back. Not because they were right for us, but because our emotions have rewritten the ending. There's an old philosophical idea that every relationship leaves fingerprints on your soul. Not scars, not wounds, fingerprints. Scars suggest something broken. Fingerprints suggest something touched you, even briefly. Think of everyone you ever loved, every conversation, every late night drive, every laugh, every goodbye. They all shape the person listening to this right now. Without them, you wouldn't be exactly who you are. So perhaps, missing someone is simply recognizing that a piece of your story began with them. Here's another thought. Maybe we don't miss people. Maybe we miss certainty. When you love someone, the future begins to organize itself around them. You imagine birthdays, vacations, homes, children, growing old. Suddenly, Your future has structure. Then one day, that future disappears. Not because time stopped, but because possibility did. You don't just lose a person. You lose every tomorrow you imagine beside them. And grieving a future can sometimes hurt more than grieving the past. Because the past actually happened. The future never got the chance. Have you ever caught yourself wondering, what if things had been different? What if I said the right thing? What if I stayed? What if I left sooner? What if we met later? The human mind loves unfinished stories. Psychologists often say our brains crave closure, but life rarely offers it. Some people leave without explaining why. Some apologize years too late. Some disappear forever. Some remain alive, yet become strangers. Those unfinished endings echo louder than completed ones, because the imagination always believes it could have written a better ending. The philosopher Soren Kierkegaard once suggested that life can only be understood backward, but it must be lived forward. Think about how impossible that feels. You only understand the lesson, and you've already lived through the pain. By then, the relationship is over. The phone calls have stopped. The apartment is empty. The chapter has ended. Wisdom always seemed to arrive just after it was needed. Maybe that's why we replay old relationships in our minds, not to change them, but to finally understand them. Sometimes, the person you miss isn't actually the person. It's the feeling they introduced into your life. Safety, adventure, being understood, being chosen, being seen. Human beings often confuse the source with the feeling itself. You think, I miss her? But maybe what you really miss is feeling understood. You think, I miss him. But maybe what you really miss is feeling protected. Those feelings can return, sometimes through another person, sometimes through yourself. But because they first arrived wearing someone else's face, we assume they left with them. Maybe they never did. There's something else considering. Loneliness has a remarkable ability to exaggerate the past. When we're lonely, even average relationships can begin to look extraordinary. Silence has a way of decorating old memories. That's why people often think about their exes late at night. Not because the relationship suddenly became perfect, but because quiet gives memory more room to speak. Nighttime doesn't create longing, it simply removes the distractions hiding it. Imagine carrying a backpack your entire life. At first, you don't notice its weight. Eventually, it becomes part of your posture. Relationships are like that. People slowly become woven into our routines. You text them good morning. You tell them about your day. You send them songs. You complain about work. You celebrate little victories. Then one day, they're gone. But your routine remains. Your hand still reaches for the phone. Your mind still wants to tell them something funny. Your life keeps expecting someone who no longer lives there. Missing someone is often just a habit looking for its home. Time does something fascinating. It doesn't erase people. It changes your relationship with the memory of them. One day, you'll remember them without pain. Another day, you'll remember them without longing. Eventually, you may simply smile. not because it didn't matter, but because it mattered enough to become gratitude instead of grief. Healing isn't forgetting. Healing is remembering without breaking. Perhaps the greatest misunderstanding about moving on is believing it requires pretending someone meant nothing. It doesn't. You can admit they changed your life. You can admit you love them deeply. You can admit you probably think about them from time to time and still choose to keep walking. Growth isn't measured by forgetting, it's measured by continuing. Here's something I hope you never forget. Every person you ever missed was once someone you hadn't met. There was a version of you who didn't know they existed, which means they may also be someone you've never met, who will someday just become as meaningful. Not because they'll replace anyone. People aren't replaceable, but because the human heart was never designed to love only once. It expands, quietly, patiently, again and again. If you're listening tonight because someone has been on your mind, I hope you're gentle with yourself. Missing someone doesn't mean you made the wrong decision. It doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't even mean you want them back. Sometimes it simply means they mattered. And things that matter echo. That's what echoes do. They continue long after the original sound has disappeared. Eventually, the echo fades. Not because it wasn't real, but because life keeps creating new sounds. New people, new conversations, new mornings, new memories. One day, without realizing it, you'll go an entire afternoon without thinking about them. Then an entire week. Then perhaps a month. Until one day, they return to your mind. Not as an open wound, but as a chapter. A meaningful one. One that helped write the story or who you became. And maybe that's all any relationships was ever meant to be. Not forever, not perfection, not possession, just a chapter that taught you something about love, about loss, about yourself. So why do you miss them? Maybe because they changed your life. Maybe because they changed you. Maybe because your heart remembers, even after your mind has accepted. Or maybe the better question isn't, why do I still miss them? Maybe it's, what am I learning from the fact that I do? Because every longing points towards something. Sometimes it points backwards. But if you listen carefully enough, it might just be pointing forward. Toward the person you're still becoming. Toward the peace you're slowly finding. Towards the life that quietly waited. Just beyond this chapter, thank you for spending these moments with me. If tonight brought back a memory, I hope it also brought a little understanding. Until next time, take care of your heart. And remember, some people enter our lives to stay. Others enter our lives to teach us how deeply we're capable of loving. Good night.